the gorgeous Bluebell Lakes. I'm here with Mr. Frank Warwick, who's kindly agreed to have a little chat with us on camera while he's having a little fish, and hopefully he's going to catch a few as well.
Yeah, some big ones.
Yeah.
I've had 2 in the last 20 hours.
Yeah.
Both 23 pounders. So.
And how did you have them? Did you have them on the zigs? Or?
No, it was cloudy and overcast and raining when I got here, so
yeah,
the fish were showing, displaying, which was good.
Yeah.
So you didn't need any guesswork. I fished this swim quite a bit as well, so I know how deep it is, and I know when they're on the bottom.
Yeah.
So it was, you know, a no-brainer really.
Fair play, fair play. Yeah. So obviously you're a well-known angler. There's no doubt about that. You've
a long-time angler.
Yeah, you've been fishing a long time. You've got many achievements under your belt, haven't you?
Yeah, it's hard to believe, isn't it?
Time goes quick.
54 this year.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Goes so fast, don't it?
Too fast. The older you get, the faster it goes. Yeah.
So how did you get into fishing? What was your sort of inspiration? Did it just sort of happen?
Well, when I was a kid, my dad was in the Royal Navy, and he was never around when I was younger. He used to make up for it when he came on leave from the Navy. He'd be like, "Let's go bird's egg collecting," or "Let's go watching Speedway at Bellevue," or this or that, and we were doing all sorts. I mean, bird's egg collecting. There's, you know, you get shot for saying that these days, but most of the kids used to do it when I was younger. Yeah, you know. And but we tried all sorts, and then I wanted to go fishing. I suggested it, and my dad didn't have a clue about it.
Right,
it was useless. And so we bought up this stuff from Woolies, and I went with him, and I had a knack for it. Straight away I was catching fish and stuff, and he was useless, and he had me putting the rods in for him and everything. We used to go to a place called Roman Lakes, and I was catching roach there one day, and I hooked a carp on there, and that dates back to the 40s, that place, you know, and I thought, oh, I wouldn't mind fishing for these, and then I went to Cape Storm Hall,
yeah,
and I thought, I'm going to go for the carp, so back to Woolies. It was a choice between the £5 rods or the £6 ones. I couldn't quite stretch to £6 a piece, so I got the £5
rod.
Yeah, and I had loads of fish on them, you know. It just grew from there really, and that was 1966.
Fair play, yeah.
And then, I started fishing in 1966, and then when I started properly carp fishing, doing nights and things, was 1970.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you realise that was before I was even born?
Oh yeah.
There we go. Yeah. We have a knock.
I told you, I had a feeling that one would go, so I can't believe it didn't do it for the camera. It's normally right.
It's normally right.
Yeah.
So you were born up in Manchester, weren't you? Is that?
No, I was born in Malta.
You was born. Oh right, okay.
Yeah, my dad was stationed there in the Royal Navy.
Right,
I'm not a Maltese.
Right.
My mum was in the Wrens, which is like the women's version.
Yeah,
of the Navy.
I know. Yeah.
So they got stationed there, and I was born there, you know.
Yeah.
And then lived in Edinburgh for a while, Scotland. And, lived all over the place.
I was going to say, you've been all over the place.
Yeah, but most of my life was spent around Manchester, you know, Cheshire.
Yeah. Some good waters around there. You had some. You used to fish Reedsmere, didn't you?
Yeah, that was the.
I've heard various stories.
Yeah, that's the place where I caught my first better fish, really. You know, it was the place. I used to fish Cape Storm for years, and then I thought it's time to move over the road. It was almost like a stepping stone. And that was the big league in them days.
Yeah.
And I started fishing there for carp about 1978. And remember the first one I got was in winter.
Yeah.
Winter fishing. Never done a fish in the winter.
From your very first, it was
up against it. Really.
Yeah.
I had 3 runs that night as well.
Fantastic.
On bolt rigs.
Yeah.
With my homemade fish meals, which was unusual in them days.
Yeah.
Everyone used to use 50-50.
Have you always been sort of that way inclined?
Bait
making
your
bait.
Yeah.
Like to sort of do it yourself.
Oh yeah, even in the old paste days, I used to mess around, and the amount of twitches you got on the old, you know, the squeezy bottle tops off the washing up liquid.
I know. See, this is how I started with. Like, balancing coins on top of the reel.
That's right, yeah.
My dad's gone Virginia baccy tin below it.
Yeah.
You know, I remember all that.
Well, what we did was we used to freeline a lot, you know, with a size 2 hook in it, and you put a ball of paste on like a golf ball, and they'd whittle it away.
Yeah.
But the amount of action you got used to reflect how good the ingredients were inside the bait.
Yeah.
And what I noticed, ironically, even in the early 70s, was messing around with curry powder and chili powder. And when I put the chili powder in, the fish went mad on it.
Right.
So obviously, I knew then that the fish are attracted to chili.
To the chilies, yeah.
And all curry spices the fish are pretty keen on.
Yeah.
And you know, turmeric as well is another one. Garam masala. So I still use those to these.
Giving away all your trade secrets.
No, not really. It's, you know, a lot of people probably try that, but.
Yeah, well, chili's a massive favourite, isn't it? You know, chili flakes and stuff like that.
Yeah, but do you know why it is? A lot of people think it's because they probably do like the taste of it, but it's some of the ingredients or the natural elements of chilies irritate the taste buds.
Right, okay.
They flare them up. And it's almost like, do you know when you have something that's full of red hot curry powder and chilies in it,
yeah.
your nose starts running,
yeah.
Your eyes can almost water. That's irritated your taste buds, that's what's happening. But
Right.
carp have got more than 10 times more than we've got, so it irritates all the taste buds and they can't feel as much with the mouth.
Right.
So they're more likely to make a mistake with a rig.
With the rig because they've lost a lot of the sensation.
Yeah, I wrote about that
yeah.
because basically, if you went to, how shall I put it? Say you found a hair in your food, you can tell instantly there's a hair in your mouthful of food.
Yeah.
They can with a hook and all the rest of it. It's like in and out in a nanosecond, unless it takes a hold. But you start inflaming and flaring up their taste buds with it in your hemp.
Yeah.
You can't feel the same. It's like a Bonjela and a natural antiseptic.
Yeah.
Not an antiseptic, like a natural.
It's a numbing kind
yeah.
of,
Yeah.
a numbing sensation. Yeah.
Anaesthetic.
Yeah.
The same as I wrote about it, clove oil. That does the same thing. That completely. It's like Bonjela with kids.
Yeah.
It numbs all the nerves. What it does is salt is one of the ways the salinity in any kind of water stops the message going through to the nerves, and it does something inhibiting with that.
Right. So when people are adding the chili and the salt into their baits, it's actually essentially it's numbing the mouths of the carp and stuff as they're feeding, and upping your chance of getting a decent hook hold.
Yeah,
so that's the whole point of it. Not that the carp are actually enjoying eating that.
Yeah, with salt, I think there's a multi-layered reason for that. Every living creature has to have salt in its diet.
Yeah.
That's why you get salt licks for the cattle.
Yeah.
If they don't have that in the field and they're not getting salt, the health suffers immediately.
Right.
Shows really quick. Same with horses. And I was, you know, when they had this epidemic of rabbits in Australia.
Yeah.
Well, they found that they're eating all the bark on fencing. You know, when you get just a tree type of staple that's been put in with the fencing on it, or not staple, a post.
The post,
and they leave the bark on it. The rabbits were eating
actually stripping the bark off
because it had creosote on it.
Right.
The creosote, the salt is part of the preservative, and the rabbits were eating it. They noticed to get at the salt.
Right.
And in the springtime, when carp are wanting to spawn in particular, and they're going to use a lot of their energy and their vitamins and everything that they need, they particularly need a lot of salt.
Right.
So that's the best time to be using salt, really, in your bait. And or maybe not so much in the bait, but you know, I use it in the particles, I always have. And I do use it in the bait, but not in stupid quantities.
Stuff like that. Yeah.
You know, some people are getting a bit giddy with that. And
I know it's.
My first thoughts is for the health of the fish. You know.
Definitely.
And so I use it very modestly. And you know, it does worry me when you see these articles where to some people they know no limits and think, oh, salt, can't put enough salt in, get more in. And
It is a bit worrying, yeah.
Well, we don't know the physiology of carp exactly, how it might react with them, you know.
No, there's no sort of control.
No, I mean,
around
it probably wouldn't do so much because it's in such a volume of water.
Yeah.
But just because we don't think it might not isn't a good reason
We
for
don't
just
know
doing
what the
it.
long-term effects are
No,
going to
so
be.
I'd rather be a bit modest with it.
Yeah,
you know.
definitely. Like you say, add a bit into your particles and
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
like that. Use it very liberally in your baits,
Yeah,
maybe.
I use it in food bait, you know.
Yeah. So, talk to me about the spod, because I've had it on quite good authority that you were sort of quite instrumental in the starting of the use of the spod. And
yeah, well, what it was I was fishing the Mere in the early days, and I started fishing with a lad called Steve Cook, and he was with this Macclesfield specimen group, and they're all like mad on fishing on Reed's Mere, and they were mass baiting with maple peas and stuff. And between us, we'd made like a rudimentary spod from these cotton bobbins, because Cookie worked in a cotton mill, so he was just getting, you know, the old Garda ones that have the hook on the top.
I don't. Yeah.
Well, they were just like a tapered, almost like a plastic beaker.
Right.
So we're using them, and they flew like a bag of spanners. They were terrible. They were tumbling through the air. We used to put sand on the top to keep the maple peas in, or whatever we were using.
Yeah.
And they'd be going with a massive big crash, and they were like a house brick going in. Well, we still caught fish on them.
Yeah.
I thought this needs refining, so I started messing around with steroid tubes with the flights. And I also rationalised that my marker was flying terrible. And so I got a hacksaw and cut into a balsa float, and I got dart flights and put it in it. And I was messing around with big plastic ones as well. And the reason being, I remember this pike angler from the early 70s, and I met him once, and his name was Chris Binion. He's dead now. But he was messing around with drift fishing for pike, even in them days.
Right, yeah, way back then, yeah.
And he had, on his pike floats, he'd messed around. So it wasn't entirely my idea, but I thought, I remembered it in the back of my mind from about 1972, and I thought, do you know what? That'll work for the carpet, and I'll be able to see my marker in all different light conditions.
Yeah, yeah.
I tried it, and it went out a dream, and I thought, everyone's like that on the Mere. Bloody hell, look at that, you can see his float miles away. So we all started doing it. But I refined the spod down, and I was getting miles. It was just brilliant, you know. Yeah. And because we were using mainly boilies then at that stage. And
it was kind of one of those revolutionary points, wasn't it? I think the spod.
Yeah, well, I used to have a friend, Paul Nichols, and he owned an advertising company, and he's seen the very early spods that I'd made with the flights on and markers. And he went, why don't I put some money into this, and you could start your own company doing these? And I just couldn't see in my mind that it would be big enough. And then I wrote about it and put it in a magazine, and then about a year later, old Nash brought out floats with the
little veins
on and everything, yeah. And probably sold tons of them, you know. And I thought, why didn't you do that?
You missed the trick there.
Yeah, it's the story of my life. That,
is it a similar thing for the boilie stick? Because
I didn't invent the throwing stick or anything. No, I mean that was that South American game where they fire the balls with it attached to your arm. I think Nina from Cobra was probably one of the first to do a curved stick.
Yeah.
To be fair to her, she reckons she was on a scuba diving holiday in Egypt, and she tripped over and something fell out of her snorkel.
Right.
Sounds a bit weird.
It sounds a bit crazy.
I mean, what was brown that had come out of her snorkel? God only knows. One of her love eggs. Anyway, moving swiftly on.
Have I got to edit that bit?
No, all the viewers would probably like to realise that I have a sense of humour, you know.
Yeah.
I don't take life that serious, really. It's I do and I don't. I love having fun, you know.
You've got to, haven't you? It's like...
Yeah. It's too short, life.
Yeah,
not to have a
life's
laugh.
way too short. You know, everybody gets so serious about things, and you know, at the end of the day, this is just meant to be relaxing.
It's enjoyment and fun, and all the people that watch this that like having a laugh as well, and that the bits they always remember with any films that I'm in is the funny stuff. And
I'm sure there's a few of them.
Oh, I've got tons of stories that kill you. But some of them are a bit rude as well. Maybe I'll tell you a few later.
Yeah, we'll save that for off camera.
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously you're quite well known for your baits.
Yeah.
That's something I've used a lot of in the past. Yeah. Your pop-ups and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, I first started selling it commercially in the old shop in Altrincham, and what happened was I didn't have much money to start the shop. I only had 10 grand.
Which is not a lot when it comes to
it's a joke. It's how I put the shop fitters in it. It's like, where's the tackle? And so I started concentrating on all small bits, you know, all rig bits and everything. And I think people started coming in a lot because they knew I was dead approachable, and I was showing all the kids how to tie rigs and everything, you know. And I was always making bait in the shop with a little garden rolling table. Yeah. My own bait. And I had my own recipes, my own base mix and everything. And then some of them started saying, why don't you sell us some of that bait? And I said, well, it's my thing, this. And then I thought, well, maybe I should, to get more people in the shop. Yeah. So I started doing the base mixes for £4.50 a kilo, just a bag.
Just a bag.
We didn't have freezer baits and stuff in them days. I think that's just when Richworth were doing a bit, but not much. Just the ready-mades and that. And Duncan Kay had done them previously.
Yeah, and like the pink champagnes and stuff
yeah,
like that.
Them red carpy ones and all that, you know. And then I thought about it. I thought, well, everyone used to just buy a couple of kilo and go home and crack the eggs and make their own stuff. So I did some recipes with them, and a lot of people were speculating on the recipes, saying, why have you got salt in there? And now it's all apparent. And then I used to have liquidized pig liver in there, and you know, natural things that suggested recipes. And I did this chicken meal bait. I'd got the poultry meal, which was dead high protein content. And I'd done loads of testing and realised that you have to put less than sort of 30%, around 25% of the chicken meal, otherwise the bait's too strong. Right. So I'd done loads of messing, and that was a crack of that. And John Baker sorted out a chicken flavour for us. Well, I did. I tested loads that John supplied, and I got this one that was amazing. And all the guys were catching loads of fish on it. And then John says, oh, they're not expensive chicken flavour. He's a good mate of mine, JB. And I says, well, I'd like this one here, John. He went, if you want it, you crafty bastard, because it must be a cracker. He says, that's the expensive one. I'm like, oh, he's got me now. So he had, you know, he'd sourced it and got it, so I had to pay through the nostrils off JB for that one. But we had to have it because it was so good.
It was the one,
and the bait's got a little sort of legendary following in their own right. I used to do spice fish and birdseed baits and that. And then obviously Mainline came on the scene selling ready-made boilies, and then I packed in the shop and went working at Trebs of Wilmslow, and the bait was the best-selling bait in the shop by a mile. Right. Some of the times he said it was selling more than all the others put together. Wow. In packet form where you roll it yourself. And I was on the Shillams rolling it at the back of the shop, stinking a bait all day, every day. And
it's not a glamorous life, is it?
No,
rolling
it wasn't
bait.
Great, no. And I had a bait gun explode one day. Got a piece of plastic in the base mix, not my base mix, another one. And it wedged in, and it was one of them massive Cox's guns, about guns, 4 kilos. It built up pressure. There was no release valve on it. It blew the end of the gun off, smashed the Shillam table to pieces. Jeez. Broke my finger in 6 places and ripped my nail off. And the end of the gun went 40 yards down the wall and smashed a brick in the wall. Imagine that. And my finger was just shattered.
Yeah.
Yeah, shattered, blown to pieces it was.
Jesus.
And anyway, so that's how I did the journey with the bait, really. Right. And then I worked for Dynamite. I did the fluoros. You know, what happened was, this is a good story. I used to make my own specials always, and I'd spent years since 1981 when I first started using them, messing with them, keeping diaries and recipes, and I soon realised that just getting some Richworth pop-up mix and putting a flavour in is not the one. It'll catch fish, but it's not the one. There's loads of things in the ones that I've been messing with over the years. You know, like using MSG in the bait. Even though it's a single, they can taste it before it's in the mouth.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's some, you know, with some of the sweeteners you use at exaggerated levels and things, there's things working in the bait that, and some naturals as well. You can use some spices and essential oils, and they all add to the mix.
They're
you know, you get multi-layered sort of components coming out of the bait.
Yeah.
A lot of what I've got, you know, buku oil in, and some quite exotic little bits and pieces.
Yeah.
And it might not appear much, but
it's actually,
bait will work over a long period. If you're on a difficult water where you've got to leave them out for a long time, you get a lot of them and you can't smell anything. They're washed out and it's all finished. But I've got, like I say, essentials in there and stuff that tend to linger.
That
you know.
will linger, yeah.
And so it's my little speciality. Anyway, I got asked to do this tackle and guns show, do a talk. And this guy rung me up. He says, "Will you do 45-minute talk?" I says, "Yeah, of course I will, no problem." He says, "We'll put you up and pay you, you know, whatever it was, a couple of £100 or something." I said, "Yeah, happy days." He says, "What are you bringing?" I said, "What do you mean, what am I bringing?" I said, "I'm bringing the slides for the talk." He said, "No, what are you bringing to sell?" He says, "When Des Taylor or John Wilson comes and Bob Nudd, they all bring DVDs and all." I said, "I haven't got any DVDs." He said, "You must have some." I says, "Leave it with me, I'll think of something." I thought, I'll get asked loads of times around that period. This was about 1996, 97. People wanting the baits off me.
Yeah.
You know, I've given people some baits in the past and they've gone, "I've had loads of fish. I've had 5 fish on one boilie and keep drying them out, making them last." Weird stuff like that.
Yeah.
That I've just met on my travels. So I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll get 100 plastic pots. So I went and bought them from a chemist, not even a pot supplier. Paid through the nostrils for them, and I rolled a load of bait myself, a load of these pink pop-ups and orange ones with pineapple and butyric and some other little bits and pieces in there. And they were gorgeous, you know, they were nice, all about 16 mil, and I did 100 pots. I thought, surely that's enough. No labels on them, nothing.
Nothing, just
nothing.
Clear
just
pots.
Yeah.
Pop-ups in them.
Yeah. Bear in mind, everyone's used to seeing them everywhere in the shops now, but then they were unusual.
Yeah, yeah.
And it wasn't even a shop, it was the talk. So I did the talk and I put some emphasis on the fluoros, how I'd used them all these years and all the rest of it. I'll never forget it. Ian Welsh was there, and he transported the carp from Sparshall in the big tank.
Right, yeah.
And I says to Ian, he's a mate of mine, he's a very nice fella. I says, "Ian, can I test some of my pop-ups in the tank with your fish?" In front of a load of people. He goes, "Frank, do yourself a favour, mate." He says, "You're going to look a prick." He says, "Them fish are stressed because they've been moved," and he says, "and if you put even the carp pellets in there that we feed them on, they won't take them at the moment because they're stressed." He said, "And I don't want to have to be scooping your boilies out of the tank because they won't touch them." I says, "Well, surely just putting one in is not going to harm it. I'll just lift it out." He goes, "Yeah, put one in then." He put it in, and every single fish in the tank came up and sucked in the bait and had it in the mouth. And what I did notice was they were firing it out at real high speed. And I thought, that's an interesting reaction. Yeah. And it's like some of the things were quite spicy and hot in it. It's like they've gone,
"Oh, that's a bit much."
Yeah, but that's when you hook them, innit? When they're going,
exactly,
when they're getting. Anyway, I don't know if that was anything to do with it, but Ray Dale Smith was there from Carp. He's a right old rogue, Ray, isn't he? And he's an old friend of mine, you know. And a good sense of humour the guy's got. And he had his stand there, you know, it's like an East End sort of car boot sale.
Right.
And he's got all his rig stuff and everything. And I says, "I've got 100 pots of this stuff." He says, "Bring it on my stand." He says, "Hutch is here, Mark Hutchinson. He'll flog them for you while you do your talk." So I said, "Yeah, all right then." So I did the talk. And I come back and there's no pots left.
Oh,
and I says, there's this guy came up to me, he goes, "You've got no more pots left." He says, "Some greedy bastards had 8 pots at the end and we nearly ended up fighting." He says, "This is ridiculous." Anyway, I had to go and do another bit of the talk. I had a little break and then went back and did some more. And I never thought of it, but I took 2 10-kilo bags that weren't in pots just to show people. And I says, "I would so wish I'd have brought some more pots, which you could have poured some in for the people to sell them."
Yeah.
He says, "Mate," he says, "what are you talking about?" He said, "I've sold both 10-kilo bags."
Sold the
I says,
bags?
"How?" He says, I've been counting out 50 at a time and they've been having them in the hand.
In the hands?
They bought them by hand. On my children's life. Ask Mark Hutchinson. we sold the lot, and I had a big wad of money there like that. And I went, I can't believe this. So I sold 2 10-kilo bags, loose, and 100 pots.
Crazy.
And Pete from Dynamite got to hear about it, and he approached me, and he says, we're a new company, we do the tiger nuts and the hemp seed and that. And he says, but I can see into the future, and he says, you haven't got the clout to do it, and the distribution is too much for you. Why don't you do these floral baits with us? And I says, yeah, all right. So we worked out a deal, and they took me on as a consultant, and we did it. And I think they did more than £1 million worth the first year.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think
meteoric.
There was a point where I think every one of the guys I fished with had at least one pot.
Yeah, and it was ridiculous.
With a little booster in it and stuff. Yeah,
I mean they had teams of guys just making them, and they couldn't make them fast enough.
Yeah. What was the white ones? Was it Milky Toffee or something like that?
That was the evaporated milk and ice cream.
Yeah.
The old Jeff. Well, I got in touch with Jeff Kemp. He'd disappeared.
See, that really worked well for me.
Well, it was one of my old favourites.
Yeah.
And Jeff Kemp had disappeared from the carp fishing scene, but I always kept in touch with him, and he went into breeding koi carp.
Right. Okay.
So I rung Jeff. I says, look, Jeff, I want the green zing, and I want the pink zing, but he couldn't get the pink zing. He'd lost the profile and the recipe for it.
Yeah.
That the manufacturer, but he could get the green zing and he could get the evaporated milk and ice cream. So I said, yeah, they're in the range, and that's how it was. And then, you know, it went from there really.
Yeah, I've just had a fish on the zing actually. Yeah, from a firm called Mad Baits. Yeah. Jerry Hammond is sort of pioneering the zing again, and it's just done me.
Funny enough, Jerry used to say to me, "Oh, them green zing ones." He says, "I'm having loads in the cold temperatures."
He likes them. You know? Yeah, he does like them. Yeah. So yeah, fair play. So and
so that I was there for about 12 years with Dynamite. Had some good times with him, you know, with Pete Chandler and all the boys. And I suggested they got Terry involved. Yeah. Because Terry's a different type of angler to me. He's a big fish angler.
I think he's a different type of angler to most, isn't he? He's in a world of his own.
Yeah, he's totally focused on fishing. I mean, I've got children, I've got a life besides fishing and other interests. But Terry's sort of full on. And I says, what you need is someone like Terry that's obviously a top angler that uses a lot of food bait. And then they did the sauce with Terry. Yeah, that's right. That's how that started really. Yeah. And I'm good friends with Terry. He's a good lad. Yeah, he's a good lad. Yeah. And I actually felt in the end like I could go no further with the company, because with a big corporate like that, you get some of the salesmen trying to impress their views on you. And I thought, like, they come to me and say, well, we're into Europe, we've got to do a monster crab and we've got to do a strawberry, and you're thinking, oh, Jesus Christ, Dutchy did that 25 years ago. Yeah. I mean, that's what the French, for example, like. But I think, how boring. It didn't light my fire, that. I sort of wanted my own thing. So I says, right, let me do one bait that's just mine then, in this European range. And for the UK, and that was the spicy prawn and shrimp. I
was going to say, it's the prawn and shrimp.
Yeah, and Pete Chandler says to me, I'll guarantee that'll be the worst seller because it's not a branded name, it's not already out there. I says, well, we'll see. I says, it's not only that, mate. I said, it's continual results. It's what the bait does. So we did that one, and he went, you were right, we've had to do it in a freezer bait. He said, that's blown the others out of the water. And that's because it was a better quality bait. Better quality bait, It was put together with more knowledge behind it.
I was going to say, there is a lot of baits being produced now that have just got no thought behind them or anything.
Yeah, and then I did that tuna one, and that was a big seller with them. And then, but I still wanted to do things my way, and I wanted the fluoros with the extra. When things get big and money comes into it, it's almost like a kind of, you ain't got control of the reins.
Yeah, I understand.
I mean, it's dead competitive now. There's loads of good bait companies out there, tons of them. It's like there's all these little operations operating from the garden shed. It must be springing up 2 or 3 a week, you know.
There's loads.
And they usually go by the wayside because it's far from difficult, the bait business. Yeah. From easy, it's very difficult actually.
Very difficult.
Because you've got some of the big players that have been doing it 20 odd years, like Mainline, I mean, Kev and Steve are mates of mine, and they've got a superb business, you know, and they've done it right, but they've got 20 odd years experience behind them, and they've done it the right way. They have their testers doing it, teasing for a couple of years or a year before it's released, and so the market, that's a great way of doing it. But when you're smaller, it's a more organic thing, you know, you've got to do it step by step. And the trouble with me is, because I've been with Dynamite, everyone suddenly thought, oh, he's got his own factory now. They don't think that you've got to start from scratch and do everything. And then you need to be super rich to do all the packaging, dead jazzy. And
so what are these pellets you're hiding down here?
Oh, these are these are brand new prototypes that we've got, and these are specific carp pellets. A lot of companies, yeah, it's no big secret, they just get standard pellets from Screttins or one of the other companies, and they just put them in a cement mixer or whatever they're using and lob some flavour in, and that's it. Yeah. Well, I didn't want that. I wanted some of the separate ingredients that go in the food bait in here, and some of the attractors. And some of them are like, you know, we've got various attractors, and L030 and you know, some minamino type compounds. And I've got everything in there that I want, so that I'm thinking pellets ain't that cheap anymore.
No, they're not. Well, not good pellets.
No, so you're starting to see people can just go and get like trout pellet type things, you know, heavy or pig feed pellets. So I thought, no, I don't want to go down that route. And that's why most companies hit the ground running. They'll get any old pellet and do that, and then just dish it out. And we've been going 2 years now, and we've not done a pellet because we've been doing
you wanted
this.
to do it right. Yeah. No, fair
play.
Are they like quite a fast breakdown pellet, or are they
medium? I would say. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay. I don't like them when they turn to mush too quick. There's a bit of substance to them, so it gives the fish time to find them. You know?
No, that's it. I mean, I've had that with the pellets I've used in the past, and break down very, very quickly, and turn into that cloud, which is great. I mean, it's all doing the job.
Sources for courses. I mean, you know, you might want to be mixing them and using different breakdown times. And exactly. I don't know. It depends on where you're fishing, I guess.
Yeah.
But I want something that's just the bits don't just take it instantly. You know, I want something that's got a bit of substance to it.
Fair play.
Yeah.
Fair play.
The other thing I was going to mention is, I've got these, you know, like, this is a funny story, this one actually. I'm dead funny about my rigs, and I don't like, because they've banned lead shot, some of the substitute's massive. So if you've got a pop-up that's too buoyant, you've got to do it a great big shot. You know what I was talking about earlier, where the fish can feel it on the lip? Quite often when I've been watching them, they felt the shot. Beside the hook, they felt the shot on the lip, and it's just gone before it's even in.
Away. Yeah.
So since I've seen it with my own eyes, where I was catching some fish right under my feet, and on Reedsmere, ironically, and I was stood there with my hood up, and they were taking the bait right at my feet, and a couple of them big fish as well. I had a 33 like that, no 34.
Yeah. So
I watched it take my hook bait.
Yeah. And
was seeing what they would shy off with and what they were getting rid of, and same on Birch Grove when I left the camera running. I'll tell you about that in a minute. What happened was, I thought, a big clumsy shot on there is going to do you no good whatsoever.
No.
And I like wafters anyhow, that are slow sinkers that just rest on the hook, so the shot doesn't even come into the equation. And that was one of the reasons why I like that. And I catch a lot of fish on wafters. And when we started first doing the pop-ups, I made them on purpose, not too buoyant. It suited me. It's my company. I thought, I'll have them how I want them. So I was doing it so a number 6 shot would sink a 16 milli.
Right.
Then you're getting all these people, what are you doing, asshole? These aren't lifting my chod for 3 weeks. I'm going, I don't use the chod rig that much. But it's become a big phenomenon, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has.
And I'm thinking, but these are perfect for how I like fishing, but I'm not everybody.
No.
Everybody expects them to be up like a good one.
Yeah.
So we've had to change it. And now I'm dead and narked because I'm thinking, they're perfect for chods, but if I wanted to do just the normal rig with a coated up length and that,
thing,
you're going to have a shot on it. And I'm thinking, unless you use something like the old KD rig or something.
Yeah.
So, but you've got to do what the masses want. So we thought, oh, okay, let's they're mad on chods. Let's take it a stage further. So we did specific chod baits, and these, if I put them in the Titanic, they lift it. They're ridiculously buoyant. Yeah. And we've had some in a jar of water in the unit for just over a year, and it's in the same position on the
still
chod.
there.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so what I've done as well is I've got all the very, very best classic little combinations and put them in the chods, and I always wanted to get the old Rod Hutchinson coffee cream, and when he mixed with Nash, they changed companies.
I can smell them already.
Yeah. And they changed companies, and I know Rod very well, and I says, Rod, that was the best flavour on singles for catching fish anywhere I've ever used. It was just like a miracle bait. And I thought, I had 17 bites in the winter on that on Reedsmere.
Wow.
In one winter.
Yeah.
And I was only doing Saturday days.
Yeah,
Never did any nights.
Place as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I had 2 times where I caught 4 in a day in the winter on it, and that was on these.
On these.
A slightly yellowy colour, like an off yellow, like a mustard colour. That was because I had liver powder in there.
Right.
Anyway, and Minamino and like a Davina liquid liver I had in as well. Anyway, what happened was, it changed, and as soon as the new version of the coffee cream came, I couldn't catch any fish on it. I could never get it, and Rod says, yeah, it changed, and he says, and that was one of the problems. So I've done a lot of delving and messing around and managed to piece all the information together, and I've got the original blend on the same solvent and everything. That's not a very regular thing. It's a diacetyl base, which is not used a lot, let's put it that way, nowadays. And that is the original one.
Wow.
And it's that's one of the lengths I've gone to try and duplicate it, because I wanted it for myself.
Because you wanted it for yourself, yeah.
And then I'm thinking, I feel a bit mean, because when I'm out on my travels, people say to me, oh, let's have a few of them baits. And I'm going, it's almost like tempting, saying, oh, these are mine, you're not having them. But I'm not like that. I end up giving them out to people. So I thought, oh, sod it, might as well just put them in the range.
Put them in the range, yeah, fair play.
But it does sort of nag at me a bit, thinking, with this one particular thing, it's like one thing I would like to have just had for myself. I'll be honest with you, you know.
Yeah,
and then Steve Featherstone, an old mate of mine from up Manchester, he used to fish on the Mere. He went, I'm not bothered about anything else. He says, I've just got to have some of them straight away. You know? Yeah.
Right, well, thanks a lot, Frank. I've really enjoyed picking your brains, and I look forward to doing a bit more with you in the future. We're going to cover some rigs and stuff later on in the year at some time when we can get you.
Yeah, no problem. So anytime you want, you know. I'm
fantastic.
easy going with these sort of things. So.
Fantastic, mate.
Nice to meet you as well.
And you, Frank. Cheers.
Thank you.